So changing sympathetic strings on an instrument that has a little sympathetic string tunnel. What I'm going to use to do this is obviously the sympathetic string itself. I recommend using some tweezers, makes life a lot easier for certain things. And the little trick, a little metal tube. Straws work as well, but they're a bit bigger, so they're a bit more cumbersome and difficult to use. And this is very, very thin, so it's very useful and it's quite rigid. And also I've just got a t-shirt or a piece of something, cloth or whatever, just to protect the instrument in case this needle, were to touch the top. So what we do is we get the sympathetic string and we're going to pass it right to the end of the needle, taking into account that the hoop end should be on the tailpiece side of the instrument, obviously. So I'm just going to feed this through. And when the string comes out at the end, like that, I'm just going to retract it back in a little bit. Then I'm going to put this needle, or tube, whatever you want to call it, to the underside of the fingerboard, obviously, but as I push it through, I'm pushing this end upwards, and therefore I'm not going to get it tangled with the other sympathetic strings. And this tube happens to be about the length of the fingerboard, so when my fingers are about here you won't be able to see this, but just at the other end the tube has just come through, and so now I'm going to use my tweezers to push it in the direction I want, because this is the highest pitched sympathetic string, so I'm going to push it more over that way. And at some point here you do have to let go of the tube because you can't reach underneath. So I've now grabbed the tube with the tweezers at the other end, and I'm letting go, and I'm pushing down on the tweezers in such a way that the tube is elevated here, kind of like a seesaw. So where I'm pressing down here, this end's elevated. Again, I've got my shirt here, so it shouldn't scratch the top anyway, but it's just, why not try and decrease the amount of friction that's going on there. Now, while I'm peeling through, once I've got enough of the tube through that my hand can grab it, I do so and set the tweezers aside. And then you can pull the string through completely, and the friction of it against the tube should hold it in there, and indeed my strings just appeared at the other end here. So now I remove the tube, so now the string is untangled through the little tunnel here. At this point I'm going to remove the shirt because I need to move the instrument around a little bit, and I'm just going to take care to not have the little hoop end touch the top too much. And before actually putting the hoop end here, if you do so already, it's just going to come untangled very easily. One thing you could do, if you've got such equipment, is just get a clamp and clamp it to the table if you have the instrument near the edge of the table, although then you want to be really careful that you don't catch the clamp on the instrument, obviously. I'm just going to leave this one hanging where it is, and I'll show you what to do with that in a moment. So first things first is where this is actually coiled, it's unlikely to go through that tunnel, and it's untwisted relative to the other strings, so we don't really need to worry about it too much. We're just going to make sure we don't put a kink in it. The trickiest part actually, after getting it through the tunnel, which isn't that tricky when you've got that little needle, is this part here. And what I want to do at this stage is get the string down through here with minimal kinkage in the string, because a kink in the string can make it break more easily. So what I'm going to do is put the tightest curve I can manage on this without putting a kink in, and have as little of the string exposed as possible. And then I'm going to try and sort of bring it back on itself. And this instrument, it's quite tricky to do it on because there's really not much space between the peg and the little wall here. So yeah, again, tweezers can be helpful here. So I'm going to aim the string down through that little gap, and when my fingers are just a bit too squeezed in here, I might want to use the tweezers to help encourage that down. So that part's actually what I think is the hardest. Don't worry about if the string's not sitting in the slot yet, because again it might move because it's not even hooked on yet. So what I would recommend doing is then pulling the string through a bit. You can put the instrument on its side or upside down, being careful again to not kink the string. And then we're going to find the tuning peg. So here's my string, here's the slots, and my last free tuning peg. I'm going to put it through here. I'm going to put a bit extra of the string through the peg so it doesn't come unravelled. Then I like to try and have the string cross itself, so it's basically clamping itself in place, but you all know how to do that already, I'm sure. And when I've got a few windings around, I push the peg in so it's not going to come loose. And now it's time to hook the string on. So I've just put a few turns in roughly. The string was cut to length for this instrument. And so now I'm going to put it through the bridge. And again, being very careful to not kink the string, making sure it goes above the other strings. This will be a good time to use the tweezers yet again. Being very careful to not drop them on the instrument now because it's unprotected. And I'm going to pull it out the side so I can get these out of the way as soon as possible. Just with tools in general, rather than going over the instrument, going around the instrument can be just another little thing to save yourself any potential issues if you were to drop a tool, which again, be careful not to do. And I've actually tightened the string almost spot on to what I need. I'm actually going to have to give myself a tiny bit more slack in the string by loosening the tuning peg, obviously. I'm actually going to use my tweezers again, so I should have just left them here. And I'm going to pull the hoop down over the little hook here. In this case, it's actually a screw, quite funny. And being careful to not damage the instrument, and always leaving the tools really far away, like stupidly far out of the way. So again, if I'm ever moving the instrument around, I'm not accidentally going to scratch it. Now I've got my finger on that, so that shouldn't be able to come loose. Now is the time where I'm going to start to tighten the string a bit more, and I am going to care about where it is in the slot. So at the moment it's not in a good place, but it's so loose that it's just going to dance around and dance around. So I'm going to tighten the string a bit more. And now I'm going to check again, and it's still very, very loose. And so a bit more tension. Let's see now. Okay, now it's quite tight. So yet again, tweezer time. And I'm just going to hook it over onto its slot gently. Now it's resting in that correct sympathetic slot. And the string's not going anywhere now. Oh, and I've just got to put it on top of the saddle here. There you go. And sorry, I've just realised this camera angle has been a bit rubbish for some parts. Now I'm going to flip it around, and at this end I'm going to move it from the incorrect slot here, loosening the string a little bit if need be, to make it just a little bit easier to cross over. I'm just going to pop it over to the final saddle here, or final slot rather, and voila, done. And it will just be time to tune now. There you go.